Welcome back to the Virtual Compound Podcast. It's time to kick off season 2. Yep, that's right. We are so excited to kick off season 2 of the Virtual Compound Podcast, where 3 women brought together by dance found friendship and sanity through commiseration and coping with life married to the military, parenting, fitness, faith, and dance moms. I am Katie. As you may have seen on our Instagram or Facebook, we have grown by 2 feet this year. That is 2 baby feet. Lacey and family are celebrating the arrival of a adorable little baby girl. And while we can't wait for you to hear all about her, we are giving Lacey a well-deserved break from recording to settle into their new stage of life. In preparation for this, Lacey and I got together a few months back to record the first episode of a 3-part divided series we are doing about the oh-so-magnificent Empyrean book series by fellow military spouse and New York Times bestseller Rebecca Yarros. In case you don't know it by that name, you might know it by their titles, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. This will be a mini book club style experience. We will be doing it every couple of weeks. This is the first installment, and it is primarily covering the first in the series, Fourth Wing. Spoiler alert! Please note there will be spoilers in this episode for Fourth Wing, as well as a few minor mentions of Iron Flame. If you have already read or listened to the book, please join us and compare our theories to yours, and then go and let us know how wrong we were in our theories on our social medias. If you have not yet read the book and don't want to spoil anything, save this episode and come back to us once you have finished. But don't go too far. Instead, go check out one of last season's episodes. Then hit us up on Instagram and Facebook. And be sure, as always, to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Okay, you have been warned. Spoilers for Fourth Wing are about to begin. If you're still here, I am so excited for you to hear all of the craziness that Lacey and I had on that time. If you are still here and you don't know about it, you have been warned again. Spoilers are coming. In 3, 2, have fun. You have been warned.
Okay.
It is now time to talk about Fourth Wing. So
Yes.
I
mean, we both liked it.
Yes. I convinced Lacey, who is not a fantasy person, but it's not really fantasy though. Like, I mean, it has
It's
dragons,
not.
but it's not. I would say that, like, what did I tell you? It's more like military college with dragons.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Like I explained it to my oldest that way because I was like, honey, you would truly love this book.
Yeah.
And so I agree. It's definitely yeah, it's not fantasy like you would think, like A Court of Thorns and Roses where they're all fairies and things. That's the part that I can't do,
Right.
but it's definitely more like a military, like, human story.
Yes.
Because they are human.
Yes.
So, like, don't be fooled by the dragons.
Yeah. Don't be fooled by the
Yeah.
dragons. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, you said it was like Hunger Games, and then I
Yeah.
read it and I was like, oh, it's kind of like Harry Potter because
Yes.
they have dragons and they're not like
So when I
critical.
explained it to Wyatt, I told him, I was like, it's actually a lot like Red Rising. Did you ever read Red Rising? So
I didn't.
in Red Rising, once you get past the beginning with Darrow and turning him to a gold, which doesn't make sense to you, for anybody who's listening that knows what that means, once you get past that point of turning him to a gold and you get him into the Institute, this is like 3 years of the Institute, except that in that death happens, and it happens at the hands of other people around, but it's not with the purposes of Hunger Games, where it's all about one person coming out and you're doing it for your life. It's military. It's a branch of the military for this country and this kingdom. That's a better way of putting it. And so that's what it comes down to. And it's a little bit easier to understand, in my opinion, when it's that way, because it's a combination of a lot of them. And while Harry Potter, there's school, there's an outside source. And so there is that. There's this outside source of that you don't know about. Um, but it's just so good, and I was so
It is.
happy, and I may have spent a lot of money to get the two special edition books from this really great person on Poshmark who had brand new ones, and they have the burnt edges, and I love them, and they're amazing, and they're the best shelf trophies for my audiobooks ever. They're great.
Yeah. Okay, you want to draw? Yeah, I mean, I think that so listening to audiobook, I listened to the audiobook thinking I'm not going to really be interested in this. Katie, I'm listening to it for Katie.
Yes, for
And
me.
then I got really into it and I thought it was really good. So now I do need to go back and read them. So I don't necessarily have like all of like the little thing like pages marked with like tabs or whatever
Right.
to like, think about. So really it's just more about feelings and like certain recollections. Although I will say, so for Fourth Wing, after finishing both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, now remember we've given a spoiler alert,
Yes.
so if you haven't stopped listening and
So
you want to read these books,
you should stop
stop
now.
now.
Stop now.
Yeah. I mean, you've come back with like your thoughts and totally like weeks later,
Right.
like, oh hey, what about this? So we've talked about like the little blurbs before the chapters.
Mm-hmm. Which chapter are you on? I
And
have my book. I'll go there.
so I have the Fourth Wing open to chapter 5, but I was thinking about how in Iron Flame they really drive home the point that Violet's mom, the General Sorrengail, was at the execution and insisted upon the children being at the execution
Well, except
of their
that,
parents.
oh yeah, this one though, the chapter 5, a
But this
blurb.
one it says like no child be forced to watch their parent put to
Yeah.
death. Like those were her feelings on it, and it's like, oh, okay. So there is definitely some element that we don't know
Yeah.
yet. Like something's coming in the
Yeah.
next book.
So, did you see my message the other day about chapter 12?
Yes, yes, I
And
did.
I I'm re-listening to it. So I listened up until they left for like the final war games because I'm not reliving Liam right now. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm still not over that. Um
that one was pretty messed up,
that was messed up,
especially with
and
what happened in Iron Flame.
well, and then him, as soon as she like mentioned him in Iron Flame and that whole scene, and I just about lost it again. Like I definitely teared up, but that whole thing with chapter 12 and her mom being bloodshot eyes and knowing what happens at the end of Iron Flame and in the middle when referencing Jack, and there's all this stuff about knowing that her mom was looking for a cure for Venom,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
there's so many speculations. So it's funny. I showed Lacey a screenshot of my like search page on Instagram and I hadn't typed in anything. And the top, how many do you see at the beginning? Like 12, something like that, just
probably
like
something like
tiny
that.
lit.
Yeah,
Of those 12, what, 8 of them were all Iron Flame. And
yeah,
I hadn't gone searching for anything. So, I just periodically like I'll click one that looks interesting and then I'll just doom scroll and see what happens. And
yeah.
there's all these
But
speculations,
oh
but
yeah,
nobody
but
speculates about her mom. And I'm like, no, I think it's her mom.
I agree.
I think it's her mom.
No, I agree. I think it's really strange that they aren't talking about her mom because that obviously is a huge part of this. Like,
Hmm.
no. Um, so I agree. I don't know that our eyes get red when we're tired. But I don't know that I think it's her dad. I think her dad is Venom and he's missing. And honestly, when Zayden went to the Vaden in Iron Flame at the
Hmm.
end, I honestly thought it was gonna be Violet's dad.
No, actually, I saw something. I haven't seen her interview, but I saw something where supposedly Rebecca has confirmed that he is dead, that
Okay.
her dad is dead. Um,
Well,
and
but
so
what Jared, it's Jared, right? The other one.
Jack,
Jack. No, not Jack, not that one.
Liam,
The one Liam? Yeah, Liam, because his sister and everything.
right.
If she saw him, I think there's gonna be something
Oh,
with
I
her dad.
think that there's going to be something like that where we could definitely see him again. And I think that
Yeah.
might have something to do with somebody's signet. But I think that he is dead. And even if he was in the Venom, I think it was her mom. And like you had said, that maybe it came up sometime before. I don't know if it's her dad and he pulled from Violet's mom while she was pregnant, or if she happened to already be Venom and then get pregnant, and this is an issue that we dealt with. What, like
Mm.
Violet is a result of her mom doing that,
I
but she tries not to. She tries to
yeah.
regulate herself because later I did see, where was it? I don't remember which chapter heading it was now because I went back and re-listened to everything, and it talks
Hmm.
about the different venin and the ones whose eyes fluctuate based off of how much they feed. And so there are times when they are
Oh,
not red-eyed at all, or it's so
okay.
small, like with Jack, where it just looks like he isn't sleeping.
I'm wondering then though if if the Venom thing isn't necessarily because it's been painted as like they're evil, they're power hungry, they're greedy. Like we see that with they obviously did it because they're power hungry people. But
Right.
what's the alternative and why would anyone else become a Venom?
Yeah.
And if there is an alternative to become Venom, then perhaps there is, a redeeming quality or a redeeming opportunity that like it doesn't mean death, it doesn't mean that they're
Right.
consumed by power. But then on the flip side, why would General Sorengale be seeking a
A cure.
cure? Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know what word I was trying to come up with, but cure was completely eluding me. Anyway,
No, I
um,
agree. So apparently, according to other people, because I haven't gone back and like looked at what all Rebecca Yarros has said, but other people have said that she has confirmed that there are 5 books in this. I don't know if she said this
series,
series, because some
dude.
people speculate that this could still only be a 3-book series with 2 additional books, but there are 5 books in
Mm.
this world.
Oh
Um,
goodness.
I know, which I'm like, if this is drawn out for 5 books, I think all of our hopes and dreams are going to be plummet at some point, and we're going to be like, well, everything we hoped was gone, and then it has to
Yeah.
rebuild. Versus some people are hoping that like one of them is a prequel, and you get to see Xaden or maybe her parents, because it would be also pretty cool to see like her parents and know,
Hmm.
what it was like early on. Um, so I don't know, but I'm like, I don't know if I can actually I will handle this
Yeah.
for 5 books, but knowing what would happen and, historically what happens in a lot of series when it's drug out for more than 3 books, that there's going to be a giant plummet of expectations, or not
Yeah.
expectations, but of your feelings.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes like just I don't know why I wasn't hit with it with Harry Potter, but with starting this book, just thinking about the world development
Mhm.
that goes into play here. I mean,
Mhm.
and maybe Harry Potter I didn't have that same because it was like in this world,
In
but it
this
was
world,
another
yeah.
part of this world. But the world development and the creativity in these books, I think that's why they captivated me so much
Yes.
because it is such a unique new thing. Like you
Yes.
hear all the time people talking about like Hollywood doing remakes and sequels and like they're just doing the same old stuff and it's very tired and it is,
Yeah.
and this is something completely
Completely
new,
different.
completely different from anything that I've ever read. And I think that that's like the big thing here.
But what did you think about it from the beginning?
So I like this is the first audiobook I have ever completed because
Yay!
I am not an audiobook person, but I was like, well, Katie wants somebody to read this book with her, so she has somebody to talk to. And I'm like
Mhm.
doing a lot of things. I could listen to it, I guess, like and just kind of like know what she's talking about. So that's what I went in with this, and like I don't even know how long it took me a good chunk of time to like really grasp like what was
What was
happening and
going
get
on?
engaged. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like I didn't have the maps, so I didn't like quite understand what in the Sam Hill was happening when they're like the parapet and the falling off,
Yes.
and I'm like, what? Like, what did I miss? Is this the first book or is this the second? Like,
Right. I do
who
remember
am
you
I?
asking me like multiple times, am I in the middle of a series? Like, no, you're just as lost as everybody else would have been right at this point. Although I do
Yeah.
have a hard time with the parapet trying to imagine every bit of it. Like there are certain parts and going back through.
Uh-huh.
fan art has helped me understand certain aspects of it a little bit because like
Hmm.
just seeing it from somebody else's point of view. But I have a tough time with the beginning and the end, the two ends of the parapet, because both of them, they say it starts, but it's behind the walls. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, so does the chasm start right there? Or is it just that you have to stay, it's kind of like standing on a balance beam for the fur, but even like the balance beam, but over solid.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did the walls work then? Like, if it's a chasm, how are there walls? And I guess that's
So,
an area I know that that's like super minute, but talk about it a lot, so I
yeah.
just don't get that part.
Well, like again, initially I didn't really pay attention to that part and had no idea what was going
Right,
on. And
right,
I'm not an audio learner at all. My husband doesn't understand how I don't hear things and like automatically like one remember them 20 years later,
right,
and two just like know where I heard any of the things. So, that like it took me a while to kind of like grasp what happened and like what was going on. And now like thinking back, I absolutely picture everything, the walls built out like right at the very edge,
right.
right? And at like and kind of like mountainous, like it gets
Yes,
deeper
yes,
like the further out you go.
yeah.
You can't have my
So
pencil.
it's like I'm trying to go back to where it is like at the end of chapter 2, and he yells at her and it says secure on both sides of the wall. I run the last 10 feet, my heart pounding as adrenaline pushes my body to its max, and his footsteps charge behind me, like going, and then it says spinning, or then she jumps down like off the parapet.
Mm-hmm.
It's 12 inches off. So I hurtle towards jumping the 12 inches off the elevated parapet. So for that last few feet, is it just a raised portion of like the deck, right? So like solid ground or
Mm-hmm.
solid level, or is that chasm and the walls like that and that? Do you get what I mean? Like,
Oh, is she jumping like 12 inches over the chasm to get to the ground?
no,
Is that?
no, it's
Oh,
just saying that the parapet is just raised. So I'm just thinking
right.
like the parapet is actually like the beam is 12
Right.
inches thick. But
Yes,
is
that's
it
how I read it.
sitting, right? So I read that too. But does that mean that the last 12 feet that are inside the walls are just sitting on, like the walls are attached to the ground and there's no chasm underneath those 12 feet? Or is there still chasm or the valley, whatever you want to call it, underneath?
Mm.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
It's
I
a
know
great
this is
question
going
for
like
Rebecca Yarros.
right, or to like dig through and see. It's just because it comes up a couple of times, and it
Yeah.
comes up again in the beginning of the second book when they are, when she is the one doing the roll call. But
Hmm.
anyway, so it's just spoiler alert. Moving on to the next one, she lives.
In the first
In
chapter,
the
she
first
lives.
chapter, she lives.
Wouldn't that
Um,
be a great book though? Like you kill your main character in like the first couple of chapters,
right.
and like, or maybe like after chapter five, like you go in like this whole backstory of this character for 5 chapters. You know that the story is about them, and then they die.
And then they die.
But
So
then
I
you're like, how? What?
what do we
But then
do?
it goes back in time, and it like tells you like what led to that point.
So
It's
there
like
are
Big Hero 6. It's terrible.
Baymax. There is a book that does that, and I cannot
Oh,
think that
really?
I've read. There are a couple, but it doesn't go that far. Like it's in the preface. You know
Hmm.
that it like happens in the preface, but it's one of I don't remember how it ends now. If it's one of those things where they die and then they're like resurrected or whatever it is. But we'll
It was a
move
close
on,
call. It
right?
was a bad dream.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, for all the naysayers like I was about dragons and fantasy books, these like the way they like she develops the dragon and how they're incorporated into the story is so cool and so amazing.
Yes.
And these would make phenomenal movies.
Oh, there is. It has been bought. The rights are purchased.
Really
Amazon
amazing.
MGM. It's pinned to the top of her Instagram page.
Amazing,
I know.
because we need new movies
We
and these
do.
books are so creative.
I
It's
know.
such a different storyline.
Yes.
I
I'm
mean, it probably like I could probably go through and be like, oh, never mind. It's like touches of Romeo and Juliet, and there are biblical things because we know that Shakespeare comes from biblical stories, or like all like stories are told, like Sons of Anarchy is a story of Hamlet, right?
Right.
Like all these things, it happens, but told in a different and creative way. So we need new and creative
We do.
movies, and I think that this is that's a stellar choice.
Yes, I'm super
I could
excited.
like literally I could probably get my husband and son to watch that because this is done in such a cool way.
Yes, I agree. I agree. If it sticks to the way that she wrote it, I think we could
Yeah.
get anybody to
Oh
do
yeah.
it.
Because it's well, and if they don't hire Kristen Stewart or Dakota Johnson.
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that for sure.
How do you kill a movie? How do you kill a book?
Those
Hire them.
hire them.
Mom, Happy.
Penelope, you would be great. Yes, you
They
could play a
you would
little
be
Violet. You would be perfect. You're right.
Baby Violet.
Yeah, you could be Baby Violet. We'll put some like silver in your hair. It wouldn't take much. We'll just put you in the
No,
sun for a little bit.
it'd be so cute.
But
So
speaking of dreams, I'm pretty sure there's some crazy. Yeah, there are crazy dreams in this book.
there are not as
But
yes,
again, I have to like read the actual book to remember them
I know.
because I
Well,
did the
now I'm
audiobook.
trying to remember. So I just found it.
Yes.
So
Cool.
it starts with her dad in the dream telling her you always have to check your sources. Remember that first-hand accounts are always more accurate, but you have to look deeper, Violet. You have to see who is telling the story. And much like with a lot of things, I think that dream, and then that's basically, um, oh, and then he kind of goes down and she says, what if I become a writer? And he says, you're not like them. That's not your path, which that's true. Like that's what he was trying to help her do. But that's where perhaps like her mom actually might have understood her a little bit more. I mean, this is part of the Iron Flame part rather so much than this, but like she was okay with showing or having Violet be trained as a scribe, but then
Yeah.
knowing that Violet would not have agreed to it in the end and then would not have been able to defend herself because of it either, or been
Well,
able to do anything about it.
we know there's a lot that's sitting in there with her dad that we haven't seen. Like obviously he's written books, he's done studies, and they can't like they kept his things somewhere. Like she kept his stuff. She talks about it because
So it
again, spoiler,
sounds
like
like he hid his stuff.
okay, that's what it was.
I
Yes,
think
but she
he
knew
hid
he
it.
was.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
she knows
because
where it is, but she hasn't thought about going to find it. And I'm
yeah,
like, why? Why have you not thought about going to find this?
yeah. Well, in this world, like they burn the belongings of the dead, and they have like a whole different belief structure and a different
Right.
like it's a truly different, completely different world.
It is.
Um,
I have a
and so
conspiracy about that one too, but finish your thought first.
so she was training as a scribe with her father, and she had the two older siblings that were going to be writers, and like the mom is a general, she's a writer, and her dad's a scribe, and so like there's the academic path and then there's the military path. But there had to have been something that happened when Violet was young that like caused her to have the silver hair, that caused her to have these unique differences, that she has two dragons, bond to her, and her mom had to know like something that she needed, like you said, all of those elements to kind of pull her forward,
Mm-hmm.
and to like protect her. But it's just kind of like a chicken or the egg, like
Yeah.
which is
Which,
which, like
yeah.
did she understand her daughter, did something happen early on, or is this just kind of like a I guarantee it's well thought out, and
Oh
when she
yeah.
was writing it she thought very in depth, but at the same time it's like but was she supposed to find the dad's stuff and you just decided to wait until the third book? Like why?
Right.
Why?
Why? Yes, very much. It is very much a but why? But why? But why? Can we just answer this now? But why?
Yeah, like I get it, it's taking like everyone's probably sitting there, some people have probably forgotten about it, but
I haven't. I refuse to forget about it because it's going to be vital. I know it's going to be vital. and
Yeah.
I am ready for it. And we will get into the rest of the dreams when we move to Iron Flame. But for this moment, we're gonna end that dream. So once she gets in, I thought everything really picked up pretty quick, especially being like confronted by all of the dragons at um formation, like that
Oh, when
initial
they went to like,
formation.
yeah, well, that one, and then also when they went to like look at the dragons before threshing,
Mm-hmm.
and every single one was just like staring at her and doing all
Yes.
the things. It's like something special about
Something.
her.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
there's definitely some prophecy out there that we're waiting to find out about. Oh, so my conspiracy, that's part of this. I think that at some point it
Okay.
could just be their belief system, but I also wonder if it will come up that the beginning of burning their belongings was the way to control knowledge and history.
Yeah.
Like, and that because things that are left behind have that person's point of view and they have that person's truth. And just like
Hmm.
the journals were put, that's the next book, but just like the journals, those aren't out there for public consumption. So just
Hmm.
anybody's journal is also not out there for public consumption. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that
and
that
you
has its
look
own
at
thing.
like their history is only like 400 years old, even though they've been doing these practices for like 2000 years.
Right.
And so you already realize like they've they've done things, and they've made these steps to kind of erase history and give
Mm-hmm.
you this like, and so like in that way I thought that she did a really good job of paralleling, making a parallel between what's going on today with all of like social media, as as vast and expansive as it is, like, but trying to control the flow of information and change history.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I did too. Um, so we talked a little bit about the maps, right? So
Yes.
have you seen
Yeah, I'm
you have
looking
the
at them.
book, right? Yeah. Iron Flame has the giant, like the whole continent.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that in audiobooks you lose that, even though they'll be like, there are
Hmm.
PDFs that can be found with this. And I've never figured out how to pull up the PDF.
Yeah.
But then I went in and really looked at this. I'm like, how do you like think about it? And maybe they
Well,
don't, you know, that it's her story, so it's something there. And then she probably had an artist who created the maps.
yes, but I think that she probably still like mapped it out, like
Right.
drew in sections. But have you ever seen the chick that like drops rice on paper and then
No.
goes and traces every little piece of rice, and like the big, like where the big things of rice are, she like traces like around that, and then there are little pieces of rice and she traces around it, and then she shakes it off, and then she makes it into like a fantasy map.
That's brilliant, though. I kind
I
of
know,
feel
I
like
was like, oh, I
I
want to do that.
I could see that
Oh,
with the mountain
oh,
range here in the middle. Maybe she did that.
yep,
Maybe she just like dropped
that would
rice.
be freaking amazing if she dropped rice.
But I feel like
But
that's
I
all
mean,
part of the world building too. You know, she didn't necessarily come up with so far, she
mm,
hasn't come up with the languages. She talks about how they all went to a common language, which certainly makes writing easier for her. Um,
yeah.
but it's still one of those things of like that's so much in a world that does not exist.
Hmm. Well, and like as a creative person, like I'm not this type of creative person.
Right.
I'm the visual. Like if I had trained myself, like perhaps I would have been like drawing, and I could probably do something with guidance like this. But I am not like a write it down and like create a story. Like I'm not a storyteller in that regard. So I'm just really impressed with the details that she puts into the story.
Yeah. Yes.
It's just
And
wild. Like,
I am very interested to see how far it goes too, because one of the things that
mm-hmm.
intrigues me is the history in world
Yeah,
building, how they create a history, not just like world building and then living in that world. It's everything that came before that too. And, you know,
yes.
potentially after, but like I'm actually looking at the map and seeing Krovla at the bottom, which that name reminds me so much of Shadow and Bone though. Um, but I keep going. It confused me a couple times, and I would end up like combining my books. But
Hmm.
it talks about in there a few times the Krovla, like the various different uprisings and
Yeah.
like the second one and all this. But I'm like, how much is she eventually going to get into that stuff? Because she does
Yeah.
talk about it, and I feel like that's going to come around a
Well,
lot
I would.
more. And it's like, how does your brain work
Yes.
that way?
Well,
But
and
also,
did
what?
you like map it out to
Yeah,
begin with? Did you map out all of the books in the history, or did you just start and it evolved and told its own story? Because
right. Like,
some authors do it one way and some do it the other.
yeah, I've seen the various things that she puts up, and she made a post the other day that was funny, but it reminded me of mapping, and it was like her first post right after the beginning of the year where she goes through and starts working on this one. She like cleans off her whiteboard, and it had this like it looked like a weird graph, like statistics
Hmm.
graph, where it was just like mountains and valleys all the way across. And I think it was like highs and lows of the book, like when action points were and when like lower points were. It's like, did you know that before you started writing it?
Hmm.
And then you just adjusted it to your writing of what you actually put in your book? Or did you make the whole thing up as it went
Right.
and it just came to you, which is also very impressive, right? Like
Hmm.
to just go with the flow and just assume that it's going to work its way out. That's absolutely terrifying. That
Hmm.
terrifies me. not
Yeah.
not for
Well,
future reading, but the idea of doing that terrifies me.
yeah. I think with like the historical thing, I think that that's going to like the history, the lost history, the history that was omitted, what they kept, and like what like the two books. They have the two books of like their founders or whatever they are. Um and how they did things and why they created things the way they are and the actual history. They're under lock and key of the king.
Mhm.
And I think that that is incredibly powerful and important because it shows that like history is meant for all to understand and recall, and it's not for those leaders to hold back information and
Right.
like keep information from us. So I think that that's kind of one of the biggest elements that's going to play into what comes down into book 3 or however
Yes.
many books this
However
ends
many
up having.
books, I know.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. I am interested to see because looking at the sizes of these books, the actual physical size of the books, the second one is what, a quarter bigger? Yeah,
Mm,
maybe not quite that. But it's bigger, which is pretty common. Like, your
yeah.
first book is exciting and then they tend to get bigger, but it makes me wonder how deep is she going to go into the next one and how much is she going to cover all at one time? Because it is like, okay, we going to learn so much about this and kind of wrap up the Violet Zayden story in the third book, and then the other two books are going to be related, but will take away certain aspects of it, or maybe that
Yeah.
storyline entirely, and the other two books are unrelated to.
Like they're a prequel and then a like 20 years later.
Right, or like a spin-off, like somebody's
Yeah.
duology, like somebody gets a duo. Dane, we'll throw that, or because does Dane get a duology later? Like he's the only
I
one.
feel like I don't know. I feel like he's such a boring character. I feel like he's a throwaway character.
I I think there's a lot more of his development. I feel like he has a lot of potential. And there are quite a few people in books that I'm ready to throw them away. Gale, I was
Hmm.
ready to throw Gale away pretty fast actually. Um, from Hunger Games. I was like, "No,
No, I didn't. I have
I'm done
still
with
haven't
you."
read Hunger Games yet. Yeah,
That's okay.
Gale's a really boring character.
But there are a few of them that are, and there's something about Dane, and I don't know if this is the narrator in the way that she presents Dane, but there's something about Dane that I feel like he has a lot of potential to come. I
Hmm.
just don't know where that's going to go.
Yeah, I maybe it's the different narrator, but for me, he was just very much like a support character of somebody that knew her when she was young. He's very basic and boring, and there's like nothing exciting about him other than the fact that he knew her when she was young.
Right.
They grew up together, and now like
And I
okay, he
100% agree with that in the first book.
Yeah.
But by the
Yeah,
end of
that's
the
true.
second book, I don't feel that way anymore.
He
I
does
don't
make
think
better
he's going to
choices.
come back. I don't think it's going to be he's going to make a play for Violet. I don't think it's that kind of thing.
No.
I think that could she set him up for a duology? Yes. I do think that.
Like he's the one that comes in and takes over when
Well,
Violet and Xaden are.
now he's going to have daddy issues, right?
Oh yeah.
Like we
Well,
haven't
I feel
even
like he always did.
started to right, but he he willingly would talk to his dad, and now that he
Yeah.
knows how much
Yeah.
that has gone awry, it hasn't been addressed yet. And I really
Yeah.
feel like that could stem a whole duology.
Perhaps. I still feel like he's the vanilla pudding.
I think he has that potential too. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of at her whim of like, where are you going to take him? Is this the end of
Yeah.
Dane's like excitement? Not obviously like his overall excitement. He has to live in the world that is that,
Yeah.
but is this the end of us with him really like being
Yeah.
interested? I don't know.
I think the character I forget her name. I'm not gonna find it quickly. Either I have nothing marked, but the scribe, her friend.
Justinia,
Yeah, she's absolutely gonna come in and have a bigger part to play.
100%.
She
She
was like,
literally writes the book.
yeah. Oh,
She
really?
yeah.
See, that's the part I missed in listening to it. I didn't
So
like see the things.
I did not actually notice it until the second go around. And she right, so the following text has been faithfully transcribed from Navarian into the modern language by Justinia Neilwort. And then it goes on, and then it gives her
Mm,
title. It gives her a title. She ends up as the curator of the scribe quadrant of Basgiath War College. Like, we know from the beginning that Justinia lives and makes it through this whole thing and becomes the provider of knowledge, which makes me feel
yeah.
great, right?
Yeah.
Because as of right now, as a person, Justinia is a great person. And so I love Rebecca for doing that because it's like, thank you for giving us some light at the end of this tunnel. Like whatever
Yeah.
that light looks like. I don't know how you're going to write yet because honestly, her other books, I don't think I'm going to be able to read the majority of her other books for 8 more years.
Why?
They're like all military based ones and they're all
Oh.
like rip your heart out military based ones. I'm like,
So I
I
could
don't think
read
I can
them.
do that.
I can read them now.
Right. Yes. You
I
can
can
read them
take the
and you
hit.
can tell me if it's safe for me to read them, but otherwise,
I'll do it for you. I'll look into it for you.
thanks, friend. But anyway, so yes, I agree with you though. I am really excited to see where I mean, we know where she gets
Yeah,
to. I'm excited to
but like
see how,
how her path. Yeah.
yes.
I'm kind of shocked that she came out and said that Violet's dad is dead, but like you said, like he provided all of his works. Justini is gonna either find them or like they're gonna come to her, and that's
Hmm.
how they're gonna work together. Because I don't think there's a way for them to work together in the past. Because well, I guess they could have, but I don't think that she comes across as like this is all revealing to her
Hmm.
as the book is going, and it's not like a your dad warned me kind of thing. But
Right.
I think that will come into play because like you said, she came on social media and she's like, no, Violet's dad is really dead, people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't really want it to be that way, but okay.
Right? Like I was really hoping for something else.
Fine. I
But I
mean, that would have been
am
really cool.
I also saw a theory of the like the general or somebody up there who's like an old enemy, like old enemy, like original enemy from the Barons' time, like when the Barons
Okay.
became the Barons. I do see where
Yeah.
the old enemy could come into play because we don't really know a lot about the Barons, like what happened,
Yeah.
because that was before time of unity, whatever it is, unification. There we go. Before
Yeah.
unification. So I I think we're going to go back to the history. I think so much history is going to come out, but she does a good job of not, in my opinion, of not to this point just like boring you with
Yeah.
history. Um,
Yeah. It's done in a very exciting way. There are little snippets and there's like she leaves you wanting more, which I think is really special. Like when I started the book, like I was very confused. But even the beginning, it was very engaging because it just drops you in
Mm-hmm.
like immediately. You're just right in there.
Yeah.
And so she's a really engaging writer. I'm very, very impressed with like her writing, her story building, and like just how she captivates your attention. But I could do with some more of the history. Like
Yeah.
obviously that's going to come into play, but why are you making me wait so long for it? Like
Right.
she does little snippets. It's like gumdrops, and it's like, oh my gosh, just give me the bag already.
Yeah.
Or I guess I wouldn't want a bag of gumdrops. Gummy bears, I would. So stop leaving the gummy bear trail and just give me the bag right now. I want to know what's going to happen.
I just need to know. Just tell me. Just tell me already. I know. Well,
Mhm.
um, I agree with that. And the I was really sad when there weren't extra chapters in Iron Flame version that I got, but I read the 2 extra chapters that were in the Fourth Wing version that I got. But which are does the book that you're reading have them?
I don't know. I just I picked these up at the library so I could like skim through them.
Right.
And then I was tempted to buy them yesterday when I went to Costco, but um my husband was with me, so he was choosing the impulse purchases of the Costco run, not me, which I probably would have chose those anyway because it was for the baby.
Right.
Um but like um until I have time to physically read them, I won't buy them because I don't do book trophies. Like I buy the books and then I read
And then you
them.
read them. So
But yeah.
so in the Fourth Wing that has the extra, it is chapter 9 from Zayden's point of view. And that is when Zayden first says that he is going to fight Violet during, hold
Yeah,
on.
it's when he's fighting her
Yeah,
in the
for the first time in the ring. So it's chapter 9 from
Mhm.
Zayden's point of view, and it's chapter 16 from Zayden's point of view. So
Yeah,
it's
those aren't in here.
right. So it's that one where he takes her
Hmm.
to the mat, and then it's immediately after threshing, and like
Okay.
what happens at, after Taryn and Darna have left, but when she's like talking to Dane and like the stuff in there, they're really good. But it's neither of them talk about what he references in Iron Flame,
Mm,
where he's like, ask me questions, ask me about when I almost threw out the deal I made with your mom and killed you anyway. It's like, when did that happen?
yeah.
When did you like almost make this decision? Was that like the day you saw her and you were like, no, I don't want to deal with this. Like, let's just be done. Or
Hmm.
so like I'm trying to think through all of their like encounters together and the stuff that happened and like what what would
I,
he have
I wonder if
risked all
that's
those 107 people
I wonder if that's going
for?
to be a book. Like Stephanie Myers did Midnight Sun from
Yeah,
Edward's perspective for the Twilight series. I wonder if that's going to be one of the books in the series.
that
Is
would
his perspective.
I would love that. I would love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the covers of these books, I'm like, oh, dragons. Yeah, I'm not going to read that. But upon looking at it further in the first one, it's like fly or die. I'm like, oh, that's kind of like,
Right.
hmm.
And
I might have picked it up and looked at it, but then the last one as a salty, as Amelia would always say, a salty military spouse who now 20 years passed and we're done. It says burn it down, and I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah,
that's how I feel about it.
right?
I like that. I would probably have picked this one up if I had seen that.
Yeah.
I probably, and knowing that she's a military spouse herself, I would probably have been like, I think I need to read this.
Yes. Yeah. Like
So
burn it down. And
yeah.
looking at so like your library book that you have, I was just looking at the covers. We're gonna veer
Hmm.
away from the story for a second and just go with the book. So your library book version of Fourth Wing
Oh, it's the
is
gold
the
one.
gold one, which is the original, but then I have the special edition, one of the special
Yeah.
editions that she came out with at Christmas time.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's red. For everybody listening, the original one is gold with black, and it's cool.
Yes.
This
Yes.
one is like burned red with gold for and white. So like the what do we call this? The
Um, I like the sigil. It's kind of like a sigil.
It is kind of like a sigil. So that's what I was kind of wanting to look at is like, so it's that part, the crest or the sigil or whatever
It is
is
the sigil.
gold.
Oh my gosh. It is the sigil because when she first does it on this cover, those are the elements she uses. If
Yeah.
I can, like,
I know. I don't
not
know why
word,
yours
but
isn't like going into, yeah.
yeah.
And
But then
then,
on the second one, she realizes, oh, I needed this additional element, and that's in there.
right. So that's the thing is like, I'm wanting to like compare them, and we don't have the cover of the newest one yet, but I'm
No.
really interested to see. So like the main, when looking at the two, one, you wouldn't necessarily realize that the giveaway with the two dragons,
The sigil. Yeah.
like, you know,
Because there are dragons in the book.
right, they're dragons in the book, and you're going to assume that it's more than, you know, like it at start, you could be like, oh, it's whoever her love interest's dragon is and her dragon. And then you come to find out that it's more than that, and there's a reason for
Mm-hmm.
the gold on there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the black. So we've got the two of them. Oh, and I didn't even think to look at their tails on here
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not you can see a difference. So in the Iron Flame, you can definitely see the Morning Star tail on the black one. Like the way that
Mm-hmm.
I went back and like had to look it up because like that part was always difficult for me when they're talking about it at the beginning of Fourth Wing. They're talking about the different dragons. It took me a while to realize that it's the color of the dragon, not the tail of the dragon. So like
Right.
the color is their family, and then it's like then they just have unique tails after that. Like
Yeah.
the tail is different.
Like their weapon. Yeah.
Right. And so, but in who I assume is Andarna on both of these just has, well, I don't know that because so like the gold dragon on Iron Flame, the tail just kind of goes to
It has the
like
same tail. I think
it's
that
just
they're
like
the
a
same
point.
dragon, but they're in different positions.
Right.
Because I think the black one on both books looks the same. They're just in different
So
states
show
of
me your
flying.
gold one. Which one is the black one in your gold? Is it the one at the top? Okay. So
Yes.
on mine, that one is
There we go.
gold now. And the one in the center is reddish. It's not actually black. So that's what I was wondering because that's the one that I
Oh
would
my
assume.
gosh.
I
It's
know.
like
It
not a
just
face. So
it's like refusing to put it into focus. Mine actually is putting in focus. I don't know why you just won't put it in focus no matter what you do.
it's like, let me put my
Odd.
hands there.
Well,
There
there
we
you
go.
go.
So that's one.
No,
No,
it still won't do it. It's still
it
not.
doesn't like the gold book.
It doesn't
My
like the gold
computer
book at
does not like
all.
the gold book.
That is
It's
so
done.
funny. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Um, but then there's like flames coming out of the side of the I don't know. What are we calling this? Like, is this a diamond? Is this like a square turned sideways? What does it represent?
I don't know. I mean it's the sigil. I think it's the sigil and like the changes that they had to create and like the I don't know. I
'Cause
don't
it
know what it is.
and then so it's like there's moon and star ish on this on the fourth wing at the top. It's like the moon and a sun, sort of.
Yeah, but they have that on the second one too.
But they're
It's
not
just
in
in
the
different
same
positions.
place. And then you've got a rising sun coming up over the clouds on the sides of the thing on Iron Flame cover. And you have
Mm-hmm.
like a double moon at the top and the bottom.
Yeah. But then you've got two, like the sun and the moon, I think overlapped on each other, and that's what that signifies in the Iron Flame Center. Because it's the same sun, but then it's got the pointy ones. So like
I didn't. It's an eclipse. It's an eclipse.
And you only knew this because
Because
we
the
recently had
eclipse.
an eclipse. Yeah. Look at
Yeah,
that.
I would not have thought
Dude,
about that. What does that mean? I feel like we
the
need to make
attention
a
to
note of
detail,
this.
man.
I know. I
This is
feel like we need
ridiculous.
to like make serious notes of this. And I'm sure other
We
people have
solved it.
noticed this and talked about it. But I'm like, okay, what does this mean?
No.
Is that
we created we did it. It's
we
us.
did it?
We
It's
wrote
us.
the code.
I don't know what the code is yet, but we broke it. It's something with an eclipse. It's an eclipse though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's totally an eclipse.
Because that's the only way that they'd be able to portray an eclipse when the previous one. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah,
We solved it. We broke the code.
broke it. We broke it, and
we're amazing.
We're amazing. We are absolutely amazing. Yeah, and the whole thing is amazing, and I would recommend these to anybody. But I can't imagine. So I'm going to jump to the end of Fourth Wing before we wrap this up, and we're going to get to Iron Flame at another time because there's so much to talk about. But the cliffhanger that she is left with at the end of
Fourth
Wing, like waking up and realizing that everything that you feared happened.
Yeah.
Liam, that's as far as we're going with that. I refuse to relive Liam on a podcast at this moment because I'm not over that, and I probably will never be over that. But
that was like the Fred Weasley for me.
Oh, yes.
It was the exact same feelings on that one.
Sorry for new Harry Potter people, but
is there anyone our age that's our listener that's a new Harry Potter person?
No.
Come on now.
But yeah, it's just like, but it was so, and the Instagram reels that like have people like people who do book art and they take characters, but they go through and they can take the descriptions and then they create them. Absolutely astound me. But there's one going around where it's just like flips through of Ian. Where am I going with that? Of Liam. And then it comes up with like his last line, and I didn't know what I was expecting the reel to be, and it popped up and it's like, it's been an honor, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Instagram broke me. I'm done.
Yeah.
Done. But anyway, so pushing past that.
But yeah, that's the part of the books that like that part really frustrates me, is that when a dragon dies, their rider dies, but when the rider dies, the dragon doesn't die. Like that inequality really, like that irked me a little bit. Yeah. And then that happens, and I'm like, done.
I know.
Stupid.
It's stupid. It was the moment where you want to like throw the book, but you're on an audiobook, so you can't even throw it. Like you're like, I'm not gonna throw. Yeah, like I'm not gonna do this. I wouldn't throw the book either, but it's that moment where you want to, or like toss it on the ground, where you're not gonna do that for your phone.
Yank the AirPods out, just to be like, I'm done with this book for 20 minutes.
Done, right?
Time out.
Can't do this. But so Rebecca, I expect an apology for that one. Thank you. But
cruel.
It was cruel. But so then she, fights through and she goes unconscious, and then to wake up and realize that really did happen and relive that, and then the other surprise to have the door opened.
I didn't see that one coming.
You didn't? I saw it coming.
But you were also kind of snooping around.
No, not on that. That was that was in book 2, and that wasn't because I was snooping on purpose. That's because I was trying to look up how to spell somebody's name, and the stupid thing popped up next to it. That was unintentional, and I'm upset with the website for doing that to me. But
yeah. No, I didn't see that one coming, and I think because I was like, it was such a background character building, like this is why these people act this way.
Yeah,
I didn't see that coming. Like obviously, I expected like a revolution blooming,
right,
but not him to be part of
it. Yes,
or like to not be dead.
So the part that I with him like being there, or not even being there, but the lead up to that, the whole time I was like, I mean, I feel like he should be, but like how could they explain it? So then I was like, well, I mean, it makes sense just in the world of books, but I was like, but how could they possibly explain this away? Like how could they explain how? And eventually they do in Iron Flame, but it was definitely like, but yeah, I saw that one coming. But can you imagine being Violet, to have those emotions of so much high, so much low, and then that anger and resentment that like her
I don't
sister
know.
shows.
We're military spouses, so I think that we can understand
We
that.
can understand. And this was written
I'm
by a
deploying.
military spouse.
Exactly.
So-
I'm deploying. I'm not deploying. I know we're pregnant with our firstborn, but I'm deploying to Iraq.
Yeah.
I know we're moving duty stations, but we're moving to Iraq.
Yeah.
Or we're not moving to. We're moving. You're pregnant. We're buying a house, but I'm deploying to Iraq.
So
Oh no, I'm not. We've dealt with the yo-yo of emotions.
Yes. Yes.
That helps us cope. But no, I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I no. These books are really great. They're definitely like they're books that I would take to the beach and read
Mhm.
when we're not doing like when the kids are out of school and we're your vacation books or whatever, and your stack of books that you're reading over the summer. These are books that I would absolutely take with me to read.
100%.
And then I would oh yeah, go throw sand. I don't
I
care.
don't care.
I need to know what's happening.
Yes.
Don't come at me with the sand crabs. I'm reading the book right now. This is mommy time.
Yep.
These are really really well
You have
written.
siblings to take care of you right now.
Yes. You have siblings to play with you? No, I don't want to do a handstand contest. I'm reading a book and I need to know what happened.
You know what happened. Go on. Yes.
The next time we
100.
come to the beach, I won't bring a book.
You're right.
But
Maybe.
yeah, these definitely really really well written. 10 out of 10. I absolutely would recommend these. Like the only things that I would say I would change is definitely like the dragon rider relationship, just because I don't want the people to die when their dragons die.
It was I don't either.
Replace it.
Seems right. Fix this. Fix
Replace
it.
the dragon.
Yeah. But
So
go out and get them, everybody.
yeah.
Fourth Wing,
Or
mine
listen
sort
to
of shows
them.
up better than hers does, so I'll hold it up so everybody can see them.
Yeah.
Fourth Wing Iron
Yeah,
Flames.
and be prepared to get sucked in.
Even if you don't like fantasy, as Lacey tells me,
Yep.
you're going to get sucked in
Correction.
either way.
I have grown.
We applaud
them
you, Rebecca Yarros.
Yes, very good. Nicely done.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you will go out and snag the next book in the Empyrean series, Iron Flame, by Rebecca Yarros, and join in next time the Virtual Compounds Mini Book Club meets. Don't forget to head over to our Instagram or Facebook and let us know what you think of today's episode. Also remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Bye!